Okay.
Okay, this is Public Utilities Commission meeting June 3rd, 2026 at 3:13. Call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call. Charles Hathaway, Scott Warner, Craig Schulte, Mike Roth, Kim Dunsmore.
And back.
I'm sorry. Beck.
And back.
Dan Beck. Okay. Let's see, take a chance to look at the agenda.
Yes.
Have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion, I move to approve the
To
agenda.
approve the agenda, yeah. You can make a motion, I'll second it, agenda passes. Do you have any questions on the minutes of May?
I looked at them, they look fine.
Okay.
Accurate.
Yeah, we approved some, some repair work and all that kind of stuff, okay. Alright. So I have a motion to approve the May minutes. I'll make a motion. You second?
Second.
Okay. Minutes have been approved. Okay, the first item on the agenda is sanitary sewer cleaning and televising. And I'm thinking Scott can bring us up to specs on that.
Yes, Vicious Sewer, they will receive the bid to do that sewer lining on 4th Avenue between 4th and 5th Streets. We got the bid last month when we had the meeting. And in the process of talking with them, they said, hey, since we're gonna be up there anyway, we'll cut you a deal on jetting and televising. And so, as you can see by the prices that I've received, it's a significant discount, shall we say, compared to the other two outfits, because they're already up here. And so that's the real reason. Mobilization is expensive to get people up here. And so that's the real difference, why the difference in pricing. And so because they're already up here to do a project for us.
They're doing lining work, right?
Yeah, they're gonna do the lining work on 4th Avenue West between 4th and 5th Streets. And so, they're a good outfit, that's why I recommend the price, Vicious Sewer, and the price, for the price they gave us. $18,750.
Well,
Okay.
can't imagine any good reason to go with the other guys.
No, I cannot.
And then if they gotta do any removal of obstructions or stuff like that, we'll give you a quote.
Yeah. So if they find heavy root intrusion,
Yeah.
they've got the equipment to be able to do that. It's just gonna be on top of what the prices they're gonna give us for
Okay.
the regular cleaning and televising.
Who usually does this work for us?
We've used Great Lakes pipe service in the past.
Yeah.
And in the past, it was never really put out for bid. They were just really brought in on an emergency basis.
On emergency basis, it looks here like it's a standard thing yearly.
That's what I'm getting it to. We had Great Lakes here last year.
Yeah.
And that was the company we had used in the past. Well, this year I put it out for bids.
Okay.
And so, because, we had that lining project, Vicious Sewer gave us the deal. So
But it's an annual.
We've used Vicious Sewer before too.
Yeah. But it's an annual maintenance kind of thing?
Yeah, that's annual maintenance. We should be televising somewhere between a third and a quarter of our town every year.
Mhm.
Just to stay on top of maintenance needs, and because we have a lot of clay pipes still in town, that, we wanna try to catch them before, having a clay pipe collapse on us is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion? I need a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Okay, I'll second that, to approve, Vicious Sewer proposal of $18,750 for wet jet and televising approximately 10,000 feet of sewer pipe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, on to septic gray water rate. You know that.
Maybe let Pete talk first.
Yeah, that's fine. So we can go to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for giving me the time to speak. I'm Pete Greshik with G&G Septic. I'm a little old. I lost a day this week. I didn't have as much time to prepare. But I have some points that I'd like to bring to your attention. And if you have any questions, this is all, not all, but a lot of it's from AI. So I've got screenshots for these figures now. I don't know if AI is accurate, but it's the best I got. Anyway, 95% of the mercury problem in this country comes from the atmosphere. So it's pretty hard to control when it's that big of a thing that we can't control that. Rainwater is 5 to 35 parts per trillion. The reason I'm bringing this attention is because I want to show you that the pond average for 5 years is 2.4 parts per trillion, which is half the strength of rainwater. And the pond has also been shut down for 25 years. Well, I found out today it was 30 years. Nothing's been added or disturbed. The pond has been monitored monthly by an environmental company, NTS. And I gave you a chart for the mercury testing that they've done over the last 4 years. One thing that was kind of interesting to me is streams in the North Shore during the spring runoff is estimated to have 2 to 15 parts per trillion of mercury, depending on if they're coming from a swamp or where they're picking up the water. So I took Devil's Track River alone is estimated to have 64 to 323 million gallons per day. So I took the 64 million gallons a day. That would take 13 years for that pond to produce what that river does in 1 day. So when you're looking at the big picture, it's a small percentage. And when I talked to Scott, I asked him that question. I said, Scott, if ours is 10 to 20, 30 parts per trillion coming in, and we dump at 2 or 2.5 parts per trillion, wouldn't it dilute it, making it easier to treat? And he said, yes, mathematically, it would be easier to treat. So you can, talk to him about that. The other thing I'd like to bring up is that I think it's important is last year the PUC made $56,000 taking this leachate water, and we can ask Scott how much work is involved. I mean, they want to do some testing, which I provided they've already done the testing for that pond, so it shouldn't have to. And after seeing what we're hauling it to Duluth now and seeing what the prices are, we used to be higher than Duluth. We should have been raising a little bit every year. So we're a little less than Duluth. My recommendation would raise it to 2 cents a gallon, and it would still be way cheaper than hauling it to Duluth. That would be a little over $100,000 a year for the PUC, which is a pretty sizable thing to, for upgrades and just keep the rates down. Right now, we're hauling the leachate to WLSD in Duluth. We're burning 60% more fuel and getting it treated and putting it in the same lake. To me, that just doesn't make any sense, and I don't know why anybody would promote that going on when we have the ability to treat it here. And I was coming in the other day by the new apartment complex up there, and there's a big sign thanking the IRRB for funding this project. So I started thinking, that seems kind of hypocritical that we're taking money from them and now we're making it a hardship and not treating their leachate anymore, which we've done for the last 20 years. So I Googled it, and it looks like in the last 3 years, $5 million has been spent in Cook County for different projects and helping out. And it seems that we could at least treat their leachate if it's not environmentally offensive. The other part is, personally, my concern is this is 30% of my business, which is one full-time position. I buy all my gas, my mechanic work is all done locally, and it's a spin-down factor. Economically, it will hurt a little bit. So the other thing is, we got wrapped up, or I got wrapped up in a political decision that made this moratorium on stopping taking the leachate. I personally feel that city government should be more concerned with operation with inside the city and not be politically correct or worried about taking sides, because there's two sides of it, the story to everybody that lives here also. So, and then I wanted to put on there, I showed Craig, I've talked to Craig a little bit in the past, and he was really concerned about more testing. He wanted to make sure that we were doing it the right way. And so I got this history of the testing that's been done. So hopefully that can clear up and show that the strength of that pond over the last 5 years. Is there any questions?
So let's see, looking at this data, this is reported value, micrograms per liter, 0.0029.
I called them, and that's where I went to parts per trillion, because that's what we're dealing with. And she told me that's how you converted that. So she added up all those things, and she gave me parts per trillion. That's the average for those, I think it's 12 numbers there. But it goes like 0.031, that's 3.1 parts per trillion.
Okay,
If it's
As low as
0.0259, it's 2.59 parts per trillion. That's what that.
and we think that our discharge from our plant is,
What do you think about it?
our mercury concentration discharging from the plant is what?
We range from, when our flows are the lowest, like in February, we can go about 1 part per trillion, just shy of 1 part per trillion. In May, when our flows were up over 1 million gallons a day, we were at about 5 parts per trillion.
Is that after we started using that different chemical?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that has brought it down compared to other testing?
It brings it down in the lower flow situations.
Okay.
Part of it is physics, where the material can't settle fast enough,
Right,
and some of the ultra fine stuff is carried out.
right.
And I'd like to add, Scott is very good about, if the flows are too high, he calls us and we don't haul during the high flow times.
So hold off until it
Yeah,
goes down a little bit, so we
Till
can
the flows
better
are
manage it.
manageable.
So
Yeah.
treating it actually is beneficial at an opportune time that you need.
Yeah, it's good to work with.
I'm just curious, how often do you have to go pump out those ponds and haul them
Well,
somewhere?
they monitor at a certain level. They want it at a certain level, and they'll call me and say, can you haul a little more? So then I'll go a little heavier. But the reason it's so great for me is, if we're busy pumping, I don't have to go there, but if the pumping slows down, then I can go and get, so scheduling, it's been a great deal for our company to be able to, pretty much go there when we can haul, or
Yeah.
when we have slow times. And if it gets too high, then we go.
You have to go. I mean,
We don't have to go. If it gets to a certain level, then they would have to go there every 2 weeks to monitor it. If the level gets a certain height in the pond, then they have to go every 2 weeks instead of once a month.
I see, so it's convenient for them, but it's not like it's gonna,
Yeah,
It's
if
gonna
I can't haul,
overflow.
if we had, something here that we couldn't take it for 3 weeks and it got a little bit high, that's not an issue for us. It's, they can.
but then typically how many trips would you make in a month or a year?
Well, we hauled 5 million gallons last year at $7,000 a load, so.
5 million gallons, and then how frequent is that? Like how often would you be bringing water?
Well, usually, and that's what happened, when we haul the city sludge down, we come back, we pick up water and come back, and I was giving the city credit for that 25% of the load all these years. And now without that, it's like $400 a load more if I don't have the water coming back. So that's another add-on cost that'll be occurred.
I see.
And we haul, I think Scott's really gotten it down a lot lower. I don't know if we even haul 600,000 last year or maybe like 100 trips for the city, I think,
for this.
Yeah, give me just a minute, I can answer that question.
would seem like,
100 trips, so a couple times a week
yeah.
on average.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't haul, Scott will say, I don't need you to haul for 2 or 3 weeks, cause he's trying to get it thicker, you know, he's doing whatever he's doing. Then he'll call me and he'll say, hey, I need some loads out of here, and then I don't want to brag, but we're always drop whatever we're doing when he needs us to haul.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
appreciate that.
appreciated.
And then in the spring, in the fall, he wants to get them as low as possible to carry through the winter. Cause it's not very practical to try to haul it in the winter. We have under emergencies, but it's not easy.
I've got numbers. I'm just gonna make it simple numbers. So in 2023, Cliffs gave us 2.9 million, MPL gave us 1.3 million. In 24, Cliffs gave us 3.9 million, MPL gave us 500,000. In 25, Cliffs gave us 3.3, and MPL gave us 700,000. And then nothing in 26.
The reason that was higher before is because MP&L had they had a pond down by the lake that has since been taken out. That's why that was higher that year, because it was runoff from the coal ditch, or I don't know, so that's been eliminated.
Yeah, so you don't take any from the lower area anymore.
No.
Yeah.
And that water, they used to discharge into the lake with that, but if they had to have it in there so many days, so if they got too high and they didn't meet the days, then we would pump. Then we would pump there.
Now, the testing here that you have, it says, facility Cliffs, Erie Taconite, Hardrock. Is this both ponds?
No, just the lower pond,
Okay. Which is owned by Cliffs.
right? And the upper pond is owned by Minnesota Power.
Okay.
And they had a higher reading. Do you remember what it was last year? It was high, because we had it down low, and they took it from the mercury settling, they took it low, and it was an elevated number. I don't know. I think he used to, I can't remember.
I remember one number that was like 2.2 parts per billion on one of the lab sheets in one of the spots. Mike had caught it on one of the lab results. I'd have to do some digging.
But they've tested it now, and it was like 2.3 or something parts per trillion.
Yeah, the number that we did find was a parts per billion number.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's significantly higher.
Right.
200 parts per trillion.
Something, along those lines. It was a big number, relatively speaking.
So, what would you like from us? What can we do
Well,
for you?
I don't know how long it's gonna take for a decision to be made, but for now, if there's any way they could open up, it's getting to the point where I'm gonna lose this business because I cannot haul it to Duluth. I cannot be, cause I gotta drive 35 miles one way and 35 miles back empty. So I can't compete. They're good enough and they're loyal enough over the last 25 years, they're giving me some grace period to haul this to Duluth, but that's just not gonna work for us. And it wouldn't work for them either. I can't be competitive with someone that would come from Duluth. And the one pond is getting to be, well, it's under control, so that's not an emergency. But the other pond, they wanna do testing at Minnesota Power and before they start hauling to Duluth. We haven't hauled any out of there this year at all. And they're concerned and they wanna know if we're gonna be able to, or if we're not gonna take it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point, the sort of moratorium on us accepting that water is self-imposed.
Yep.
So we could turn around and say, you know what, we take a look at everything and decide we are going to accept that water, start accepting that water again. True, or good, I mean, that'd be possible.
I forgot that part of, the MPCA is, they're comfortable with our treatment plan and they think that this is where it should go.
They haven't said that to us.
Hmm?
They haven't taken a position at all on it with us.
Well, I talked to Jeremy Lodgell in there and that's what I got from one of the people at the MPCA.
Yeah, they're careful on how they word they're not the one making the decision to tell us not to take it.
Right.
Okay. So given this information, it's good to have this information, I think, for if you're talking numbers and what we do with our water and how we're trying to meet and lower the mercury, what we discharge. It's good to know this. It's also, I haven't, we haven't got to that part of the meeting yet.
We can do it right now.
But Scott may have some ideas, under leachate testing concept. I think that might be a good time to maybe talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're pulling, are you opening up your list of
Yeah,
testing?
I'm opening up my list, it's just things are
He's got,
moving
he's
fast.
just getting it opened up, sorry.
While you're looking for it, I'll
Throw you
just
in the middle of
mention,
the pile here.
this concept came from a meeting that we held in Grand Portage. Craig was there, the mayor was there, Scott was there, members of the MPCA were there as well to talk about this issue. And one of the concepts that we came up with is, what if we established a more rigorous testing regimen that included things, whatever things of concern there might be. So it didn't seem like mercury was the only issue in that conversation. And proposed that to everyone in the room, let's get together and come up with a test that might meet people's needs in understanding whether this is a safe and okay option for us to continue or not. So we got a list from what was suggested at the meeting of the EPA priority pollutant list. We got a list from Grand Portage's own environmental staff. We got a list from Jeremy, who works from the MPCA, of things we might want to look for. And we also got a list from the contract between Sherco and the city of Becker for leachate from the Sherco coal plant that Simp is a part owner of. So, take it away, Scott.
So just for clarification then, so you, this list of items that we might wanna test for, would that be, we might wanna test for these items in the water that Pete would be hauling, or we wanna test for those items in our effluent?
Yes,
plan,
and,
or the plan both, you're
yeah,
saying?
so maybe talk about what the schedule might look like for that.
Sure, so the potential would be, we would do a couple of groundwater samples for mercury, just so we have some background information for local areas. As the tribe had mentioned, Grand Portage had mentioned to us that they don't see mercury in their groundwater, which I find surprising, but ground is ground, and it can show up as it wants to. But I think we're gonna try to do a couple of mercury samples yet in June. We do the wastewater plant effluent once or twice, depending on what makes sense. And then we would have both leachate companies test for the same parameters in June. And then once we decided that we would do a temporary accepting of the leachate. We'd try to go for like 3 to 4 weeks, and then we'd take a couple more samples, just to see what the leachate was doing to the wastewater effluent. And that will help us really evaluate if it's a problem, based off of, the regimen that we decide to go with. If it is a problem, then we stop. If it's not a problem, then we try to figure out, or if it's getting close, then we try to figure out what we need to do to.
We'll know it
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is that okay if I ask a question?
Go ahead, Pete.
My question is then, so when you're taking in, what if there's been a rain event and you're getting more runoff like in the spring that would raise it? How do you know that the pond is affecting it, or is it outside sources that's affecting that test?
We also do, like for instance, on mercury, we do influence mercury. And so we,
Right, that's what I'm talking about, the influent that's coming in, you told me is between 20 and 30 parts, and this is 2.4 parts. So if you're testing to see how it does it coming in, what if it's a rain event and now you're taking the higher number, 30 parts per trillion, and that isn't affecting it, it's outside sources that are affecting, so that, it seems to me that water needs to be tested where it's at before it comes here.
yes, that was part of, we would have the leachate.
But when it mixes with your inflow, if yours is higher than normal, you can't tell if that is adding to the problem or if the problem is an outside source of groundwater.
Valid point, we can't, we've gotta do a lot of sampling in order to figure out.
And were you correct when you told me that if that stuff is 2.4 and it dilutes ours, it should make it easier mathematically to treat?
That's a true statement.
That's
yeah.
a true statement?
Dilution.
So that's why I was confused, why we're gonna do a test after we haul for a while, because that can be screwed by other sources.
Part of this is that it's beyond simply mercury. There's a list of probably 15 to 20 heavy metals. Some people have suggested that we do dioxins and furans, which are real nasty compounds. PFAS compounds, the forever chemicals. And then there's a number of other things that are on the EPA's priority pollutant list. There's 100 and some chemicals that the EPA is monitoring for that they don't want to see anything in those chemicals in the water.
So that be their responsibility to do the tests that you require. Are you gonna also do those tests to your inflow? Or is it just this pond that we're worried about?
I believe we had talked about doing it to do our effluent, just to make sure that what we were receiving all around is not putting us over the edge for any of those heavy metals or all those compounds that we were looking at.
I'm confused, Pete, what point you're trying to make. Are you suggesting we shouldn't be doing more testing?
No, I'm
Okay,
saying
what's the
that,
problem?
no, I'm saying the pond should be
Well-
tested for all the information you want to have. It shouldn't be tested as it mixes in with your inflow. You should test your incoming water separately
Yeah.
than the pond. And so you have the figures, this is what the pond is adding, this is what we have coming in.
Yeah, I'd like to do all that. I think
Because you
that's great.
can't haul for a couple weeks and then take a test to see how it affects it, because that's inaccurate. You don't know if yours has changed. The pond is pretty consistent, that's not gonna change. There's no activity going there.
I mean, we don't know that. That's why we would do testing. So
Well, that's why we gotta do testing to establish a baseline, but the testing has to be over there, plus
Yes,
whatever.
yeah, coordinated in a lot of
But I
different.
would think separately,
Right.
not mixed together.
both separately and mixed.
You could do both, we
Yeah.
could do separately, and then once it gets put in,
Okay, but when you mix it together, are you taking, the incoming water might have changed.
I see.
The pond isn't gonna change, but the incoming water there might have been a rain event, and all of a sudden it jumped to 32 parts per trillion, and you put that water in there, it went up. Well, it wasn't the 2.4 parts per trillion that went up,
Right.
it's the other source that you're getting
I
that could
think it's
go up.
careful to realize and recognize when you do those tests. You obviously don't wanna go over there and do a test after we get 3 inches of rain.
Well, maybe you didn't explain
You know what I'm
what
saying?
you were suggesting in a way that everybody understood, so just walk through again one more time, the timing and location of the
Yeah.
tests that you recommend.
That would help.
So this would all be done on a coordinated basis, so we would have the results from the leachate producers, just their own leachate, and then we would have so we would know what they were doing, and then on days that we were receiving the leachate for a couple of weeks, so we would take what's going in, comparing that with the leachate, another leachate sample, and what's going out of the wastewater plant, and seeing if any of the constituents, any of those analytes that we were testing for looked bad. Like, for instance, boron, that's a very high number. That's like 20 or 30 parts per million. And the state does have a limit on boron, a statutory limit that it's not in our permit, but that's the rule that, say for instance, we decided that we had to test, and boron is on a lot of people's list of things to look at. And so if we tested boron and the city's water was actually diluting it, but if we're over the state's threshold, we can't take the boron. And so that way we couldn't take the leachate. That's just one example of what we're diluting, the city's diluting the boron, but there may be something else that the leachate is diluting for us. We gotta prove all of that in a coordinated effort to know.
Let's just walk back to what that coordinated effort might look like. We'll ask the companies to do a test based on a list that we're gonna provide them at their ponds before we accept the leachate. We will do a test of our influent as it's going into the plant, so we'll have those two numbers separately. And then after we've been accepting the leachate, we'll also be testing our effluent to see if there are any effects that it has on it. So we'll have all those data points.
Is this your decision, or is this the PUC's decision, that you've got all these plans?
Are proposed.
We're talking about it right now.
Well, you sound like you already had it all planned out.
We do. That's how it works.
Are you?
Scott has planned it out. No, this is, I'm just listening, I'm just hearing this right now.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's why we're here. That's why it's on the agenda.
His leachate testing concept. But I do understand what he's saying is if you get a big rain event or something, it could skew our testing.
Yeah.
Especially if you just dump 7,000 gallons in and then it rains the next night or whatever,
Sure.
then maybe that's a time where we don't want to test.
Correct.
We might want to wait for that rain event to be over so we get a baseline of what is actually happening with that product mixed in with our normal flow of product that's going on right now today.
So
That's part of the coordinated effort.
back up in the meeting when we talked about when flows are higher,
Right,
Scott calls Pete and says, don't haul.
right.
So we're not going to be accepting leachate during that event anyway. And now put this in the context of, we're currently under a variance for
Right.
mercury.
Yep.
And we've got a 5-year plan that includes conducting investigations as part of it to figure out if we have sources of mercury that
Right.
we can control. So it's just better for us to have
This is
more
one
data.
way to have documentation of that.
Yeah. So even if there's more mysteries that we don't get solved from this, that's a distinct possibility. But more data is gonna help with that in any case.
So how many compounds is on this? How many analytes?
There's, let's see here. It's somewhere 50 to 60.
What's your question?
What are all the tests?
How many items would we be testing for?
Oh,
Yeah.
50 to 60 groups, and in some of those groups, I know like the PFAS, there's 30 some of them that are on that list. So if we do that particular method, there's 30 of them that we get tested for, get results for. I know that there's a couple of EPA priority pollutants categories. They're like 30 to 40,
So we're
As
well
well.
over 100.
well over 100. We'd be probably 200.
Seems like it will be very expensive.
There you go.
Around
That's a good
$5,000 if we do everything.
How many?
5,000
5,000 per what?
per event. So if we sample
Per
our
round.
influent, that's 5,000. If we sample our effluent, that's 5,000 ad nauseum.
Yeah. Yeah, if we sample our groundwater, 5,000.
For groundwater, we probably limit that to just mercury.
There's mercury.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty, well, we could stretch it to heavy metals, because there are metals in the rock that will come out of solution, will come out of the rock into solution, excuse me, and that might make a difference.
Yeah. Okay, so something like 200 separate analytes and about $5,000
Yes.
per sample delivered to the testing agency.
That's the, shall I say, the worst case is the wrong idea, but that's the most thorough case that we have come up with at this
Yeah.
point.
Maybe 3,000 to 5,000 is the better estimate to use, but it's not cheap.
No, not cheap at all.
And so that leads to the next issue, which is how would we pay for that?
Well, just even before we get to that, what would be the sampling frequency?
We could probably have somewhere between 10 and 15 groups taken, times the total cost.
10 to 15
Sampling
sampling events per year?
It's too soon to tell, yes.
But okay, but you're not gonna just collect one sample from the influent and the effluent, and you would collect one sample and then come back, what, next month and do the same thing, or what would you imagine?
Well, at a minimum, we'd be talking about one sample from each pond,
But
one
that-
sample from our other influent, and 3 samples of our effluent over time. Like, that's kind of a minimum,
That's a minimum, yeah.
so there's 6.
per year.
I think this is a pilot, honestly.
So we do
More
this,
than we know this is a good idea, we should do this forever.
so we'll run it one time,
Yeah.
see what we see, kind of. So maybe 6 samples. We would not be responsible for paying, or would we, for the testing on the leachate?
I think everything's negotiable at that point. I mean, it doesn't make sense to do this at all if we're not accepting the leachate. The list of what we would test for is a lot smaller. And if we are accepting the leachate, I think we would ask the companies to fund their own tests from their ponds, which they do now. We don't pay for
We do
those.
that right now.
That this would just be a more thorough list maybe than some of them have done in the past. And then we'd probably ask them also to contribute a portion of the testing costs we've got, whether that be through a payment up front or through increased fees on their per gallon, like Pete's suggesting, or some other way.
Yeah. Because, and why would they be inclined to foot the bill? Because it's to their advantage for.
Maybe they are, I don't know, if they wanna work with us,
I know.
and they do, they've made that very clear they do, so.
And
It seems to me it'd be either in raising rates than to ask them to pay for our testing that we need done at our plant. I mean, if they pay for their testing, and we raise the rates enough to cover what we feel comfortable. But it doesn't seem a little odd to say, we want you to pay for our testing, that we're testing our own stuff?
That is something that is done statewide. Communities that have significant industrial user agreements, we can require said company to help contribute. For instance, I know a community in southern Minnesota that had a creamery, and in that town. And that creamery was half of the loading on the wastewater plant for solids, for BOD, for phosphorus, etc. And so the creamery ended up paying half of the wastewater plant upgrade that they had at that time. And so that's an option that exists.
And I can understand that, but these two sites they're closed, they're not active sites. There's no more being produced at these sites.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
there's
a
still
bit of a
waste that's
misunderstanding.
produced.
Huh?
They're not putting more ash in the pile, but it's a pile of ash still. It's the same characteristics it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, but it's been there for 30 years, so what would cause a drastic change? It would have to be some big event but under normal circumstances, I don't see how it could be drastic change. I mean, I might be wrong, but it doesn't appear to me. It's been raining there for 30 years and going in the same places, and all of a sudden, what would change?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and the testing would suggest that things are relatively stable around the 2 to 3 parts per trillion range.
It probably actually goes up if they test after it rains. Because rainwater can be as high as 20 parts per trillion in this area, as low as 5, but that's the low end. So,
And so again, to establish this testing, it sounds like, kind of the idea is like a pilot program kind of. We're gonna do this and just get a sense of what's going on. It's not like we're committing to a long-term testing regimen that's gonna be conducted monthly or 5 times yearly, whatever. What is it that we think we're going to gain from doing all this testing? How is this gonna help us?
The theory is to know that we're not polluting the lake, because we're not polluting the lake ignorantly, meaning that we don't know something's there, and we don't know that it was something that we should be treating for, or trying to figure out how to treat.
Yeah.
And so, like I say, there's a lot of things that we don't test for. That this list has got a lot of things that we don't test for because we're not required to test for them in our permit.
Right. Yeah, and so we test for all these things. I mean, we're in the same situation as every other low wastewater treatment plant around Lake Superior, right? And so, I mean, it just seems it doesn't seem like it's going to be especially productive or helpful to test for things that we aren't even required to monitor as an effluent, right? I mean,
There's a good side and a bad side to all the extra testing, regardless of what we test. I'll pick on boron, for instance, because that's an easy one to pick on. Say, for instance, that we know that one of the leachates is high in boron. And so if
do we know that?
we have laboratory data that says it is high in boron.
One of the leachate from one of the ponds.
Yes, leachate from one of the ponds is high in boron.
Okay.
And so if we take that leachate and we run it through our plant and then we sample our effluent, doesn't matter how or when, we end up sampling the effluent with that boron in it. And if we're over the state's statutory limit, the state can say, all right, if you keep taking that leachate, you will be required to do X treatment and you'll have to talk to the engineers and modify the plant however, which could mean construction, to continue taking that leachate.
So why aren't we testing for boron right now?
We are not required to.
And neither is any of the other plants around Lake Superior.
Correct.
And the only reason we'd be testing for it is because we know that this leachate happens to be high in boron.
And that's how we're different than the other plants around Lake Superior.
So apart from this matter of our accepting leachate, we're just like all those other plants around. I mean, plus or minus. They
Yeah.
have their
Plus
own
or minus,
industrial whatever dischargers and contributors to their wastewater. So, okay, so why wouldn't we then just focus on what we think might be of concern with respect to this leachate instead of going with 200 analytes? You know what I mean? If we know that there are certain things in that leachate that are of concern that we maybe should be monitoring and making sure we're not discharging, why wouldn't we just find that list? I don't know how long that list would be, but why not?
I think
Look
that's
at those.
actually what we're trying to do. And so that list was developed by talking to the folks at Grand Portage who brought this up as a concern in the first place, by looking at the testing that's done in other cities that accept leachate, and by talking to the NPCA about what they would recommend as well. That is kind of what we were aiming for, is, well, what might be the things of concern in here? And that's where I say again, this is more like a pilot. We wouldn't necessarily have to sustain that level of testing if we learn right away that most of that stuff's not an issue.
Mhm. Mhm. And we're doing this, we wouldn't be doing this at all had not this issue come up, that there's concern from our neighbors, right?
I think so, yeah, I think so.
We would not be.
I don't think we would.
So we are doing this largely as a, I don't know, conciliatory gesture, sort of, right? And that's fine. I am concerned that, like, this is, we're in a difficult situation, and so is Pete. I mean, this is kind of, it's a tough deal, both for the city and for Pete and his business, and it seems like, yes, we need to, I mean, it's a good thing to try to accommodate the concerns and address them of our neighbors, but at the same time, we also have a duty to ourselves and to Pete and to the community here. I guess what I'm getting at is, could we just say, look, we've heard you, we're quite willing to look into this and make sure that we're not doing anything that's harmful, or at least we are going to minimize the harm as much as possible and to the same degree that other communities do. And but meanwhile, we are going to we're gonna resume operations as normal. However, we are going to we're gonna do this program to make sure that what we are doing, we believe that what we're doing is perfectly good and fine, and we are being responsible citizens of the Great Lakes community. But we're gonna initiate this program as a check, and in the meantime, we're gonna resume operations as normal. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a way that we could kind of get the train back on track and also address the concerns. I don't know, I've not been involved in these discussions, so I don't know if that would fly.
No, I see what you're saying. I mean, we're demonstrating our concern, given the concern that others have demonstrated to us. So what do? We're kind of got in the middle of this sort of thing between what was going on with the NPCA and the testing and these numbers. So doing this would be beneficial to us to know what our numbers are.
I think any
And we're
additional
also
data is
showing,
beneficial, yeah.
and we're also showing a responsibility to those who are concerned, who are neighbors who are obviously concerned about all of this. And so we're trying to develop a plan or a strategy that we can implement that will demonstrate some numbers that we can get from this to see how we can proceed. And if this is a temporary thing that we start doing, and we then we look at the numbers to whether we're gonna continue or not continue. I mean, I think at this point, for me anyway, to just shut this whole thing down without knowing really, you know, what is happening and how this affects us, or how it affects your operation, or our numbers, or how we have to maintain under our permit. I don't know why we would just go ahead and do that without knowing really how it is affecting us, you know, because we never really, you know.
Correct.
I mean, when Pete started hauling it and we started taking it, I mean, who was testing anything other than we do have these numbers and we do have numbers that we do, right? But working the whole test together in a program that you've looked at, I think is a proper way to start something on a trial basis. I don't wanna say trial basis, but you know what I'm saying.
It's a pilot study.
It's a pilot study. We can kick things back into gear, resume business as normal, but we're implementing these things. And we wanna see results of these things. I mean,
Well, the way I recommend you do that is that we have significant industrial user agreement with each of the companies that are responsible for the ponds, rather than the way we've been doing it, which is just had Pete's agreement with us be the intermediary. And that way we can get firm on what the terms are about what the testing requirements, who's gonna pay for it, what the rates that we're gonna charge are, when we can say yes and no, all of it. Right now, we don't have an agreement with the companies, we have an agreement with Pete.
well, who pays us? Who's paying this half a cent, 1 cent, 2 cent?
We invoice the companies.
Huh?
We invoice the
We
companies.
invoice them?
Yeah.
And we don't have any type of agreement with them?
No.
Okay. So if you wanna raise your rates or whatever you wanna do, what do? Just notify them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, you know, they don't have an obligation to bring us anything, so that's why
True.
there's no agreement. If they don't like the rates, they don't have to bring it here.
Okay.
But it seems like it's time for us to have an agreement with them. There's enough of this complicated conversation going around that if we wanna keep doing this.
Yeah, I know, so I'm just
Recommend
thinking, whatever agreement we need, it doesn't, I mean,
I think the other thing I'd say about it is, we've just sent this idea out to the folks that have been involved in this conversation.
Okay.
There's a meeting scheduled next week again for those folks to
Okay.
talk about the whole issue, but hopefully that'll be a part of it. And I don't know whether there will be a clear yes or no that comes out of that from other folks. Maybe it's not fair to expect that, but it might be worth giving it another couple of weeks just to let that play out. And then we could use that time to develop the draft agreements.
Yeah, we're under no statutory or regulatory obligation to continue with the moratorium, correct?
Right. Yeah, it's entirely your choice.
Yeah, it's voluntary on our part. Yep. And the other thing that occurs to me is like, well, if we were to resume it, well, Lake Superior is no worse off than it would have been, had we not established a moratorium in the first place. In other words, we're not suddenly getting something that's extraordinary and, I don't know, capricious and potentially destructive. We're just resuming business as usual, which to everything we had understood was perfectly okay. I don't know, that doesn't seem outrageous to me.
Well-
That we could just say, no, we're gonna start doing this again, however, we're gonna look at, look more closely at the leachate and make sure we're not.
Yeah, I don't know
Responsible for
about, I
something.
wouldn't say outrageous, but keep in mind that we thought that the leachate was a good thing for us to do more studies on as a part of our mercury minimization plan. Seemed like kind of an obvious spot to look, not because we knew it was a problem, but just because might be, and it's kind of one of the only might be's that we have. Even if we've seen good numbers from it, it's still kind of one of the only might be's that we have. Also keep in mind that our neighbors disagree with the way that you characterized it, and they do think it's a massive problem. That we have been doing it, it's been a massive problem, and it's gonna continue to be one. So, I don't know whether, I'm not trying to make their case for them, right?
Yeah.
But just know that not everyone agrees with that.
Yeah, but we have no data to suggest that they're correct. And neither do they, at least that's my understanding.
I'm sure that, they'd be happy to come and provide you with some data if you wanted them to.
Well, I mean, if there's a problem, we'd like to know about it.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be really hard. You guys already recognize that, right? That this is a difficult decision, and it's hard to sort through that stuff. There's no clear, no smoking guns here yet. Maybe there is one when we do this testing,
Well,
but chances are, you know, we've been doing this for 20 years, so. I don't know.
But the reason this was brought up in the first place had everything to do with mercury and nothing to do with boron or PFAs or anything else, correct?
Mercury was what was brought up in their official communication with us. But when we were in the conversation with them, Craig, they talked about all kinds of stuff. Issues of concern with the fact that this is industrial in character, that contains a lot of things you wouldn't have in typical residential wastewater, and things that we ought to be concerned about. And that's not the way we had thought about it before
Yeah.
then.
There probably is data somewhere on typical leachate pollutants from ash piles. And I guess the ash varies a little bit from place to place.
A lot of it varies from where the place, where it was, the coal was mined.
Yeah,
Some areas are high in one chemical, one heavy metal, other areas are high in another.
I think it's gonna be pretty hard to find useful Google search data on that, because it's a pretty charged issue, and you've got a lot of folks on both sides of that question with a vested interest in the data being one way or the other.
yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, people have been collecting leachate samples from ash pond, from ash ponds for decades, right? And so there probably is data out there, like, well, what's typical, what can we see? What might you be concerned about? As you say, I'm sure there's variation, but I don't know,
We might be able to develop a range,
yeah, or
X
these,
to Y, but
like, do you see PFAs in these? Or do you see, I don't know, aluminum? Is that typical, or is that, or can we guess that some of these don't even belong there? We see nitrates, or we see, selenium, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's-
To go back to that list though, the way it was developed was 80% came from either another city's testing that they're doing on coal ash leachate, or things the NPCA suggested, or things the EPA suggested.
So probably.
So, I
has
mean,
some
we're talking
relation.
about pretty much what you described, I think is already what we're gonna narrow it down now is,
I see.
look at the numbers.
Well, anyway, I don't know exactly, this was gonna be a presentation on the leachate testing concept, right? So,
Yeah.
and it was, and thank you, and also thanks Pete for your contributions here, I think it's really helpful to get your perspective and to understand what your concerns are, and I hope you can see that we're also very concerned about this and try to figure out an answer. So, what are you imagining the next steps, or what would you like, what direction are you looking for from the PUC, or what,
Because the direction that I would ask for is that in the ideal situation, we would be able to collect the initial data before we started receiving the leachate. So, well, we have to decide what data we're gonna collect. Then we start collecting that data, and then we start receiving the leachate, and then after 3 weeks or so, plus or minus, we would start collecting other data that would be, we would know what's coming in and then what's going out, and figure out if at that point there was a problem. And that's gonna take a number of sampling events, because we would do our influent, we would do our effluent, and then potentially combining that with leachate numbers, and seeing if all of a sudden metal X is a problem 1 month and not enough, or not 2 weeks later, but we don't see it on the city side, we see it on one of the leachate sides, then that's gonna help us, or we could say, go back to that leachate producer and say, all right, you guys have to pre-treat for that particular metal, or whatever. And that would help us, if they knock that metal down, or that item down, then, and that made all the rest of the numbers fall in line, that'd be a win-win for everybody.
and
You're hearing, we don't know exactly how this is gonna play out.
sure,
And I don't think we're ready to ask you for a specific decision today. So if you have one you wanna make, you can certainly do that. But what I would propose is, let us talk to these partners some more about this testing plan.
Yeah.
Unless there's something about it you wanna modify right now.
Yeah.
Let us develop, draft significant industrial user agreements for the companies.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring that to a next meeting with an idea of something for you to take a motion on.
When's the next meeting? Next week?
No,
You got a Zoom meeting or something?
yes, that's next week
Okay,
with the NPCA and with Grand Portage.
okay.
Is that a closed meeting also?
The public's not invited.
That being said, I bit my tongue here, I can't even tell you that I'm gonna bring this up, but I'm gonna bring it up, so everybody knows. The Grand Portage pond system up there does not treat for mercury to begin with. Furthermore, when they discharge into the bay turns brown, they get many complaints, and they put up no swimming signs because of the E. coli. There's people drinking water out of that lake along the shore because the minerals are so bad, they're taking intake for their water comes out of Lake Superior. So I think this better go both ways. They have a problem that's bigger than ours. And I think when you negotiate with them, that should be a concern. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
That what happens when they dump those ponds. And those ponds were supposed to be pumped years ago because the solids are built up way too much. They don't have the volume for settling. And it was extremely amount of money. They contacted me to try to do the hauling. So they've got their own issues, and then to point fingers at us when we're meeting what we're supposed to meet is not right.
Yeah.
And when you say there are partners, what do they contribute to us? They're not a partner to the city of Grand Marais. And the city should not be taking political views, anti-mining, anti-this. They should be looking at the facts and the economic impact of running this facility. It shouldn't be a concern if they don't want the mining companies to take their water here. That is not part of the concern of the city of Grand Marais, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think the phrase was actually neighbors rather than partners, but I get what you're saying.
Oh, I thought you said partners.
Anyway,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, and
Why
I like
wouldn't
to
we
be.
want them to be our partners?
Well, partners in what then?
I don't know, but I would treat them that way in any case, and I don't know anything about what Pete's saying. I certainly wouldn't make any public
You don't know anything
statements.
about it, I told you about it before, so you do know something about it.
I know what you've said about it,
Well, and I'll stand by it, I can prove it, it's a fact.
yeah, and I think that's of really no use to bring that up.
That's no use to bring up, that they're putting E. coli in the bay, and people are taking that water for drinking, and they put up signs, no swimming. And there are people that live there are complaining about the brown water in the toilet paper floating around in the bay. That's of no concern to us.
I mean, I've definitely heard that kind of talk about our facility that's not true as well, so I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't see
Well,
any
I
use in
think
having
for-
that conversation here.
I think for my view on all of this is I wanna show to even the people living in Grand Marais, where's our water coming from,
Exactly.
right? So this testing concept you have, I would like to see that move ahead. I don't know if we need to vote on that or anything, you wanna have the meeting first and educate everybody about this, that's great. But I think it's important for us to understand what are we really doing, and of course, the conversation was always over mercury, now it's changing to 200 different chemicals, but the main conversation was about mercury and our permit that we operate under. And bringing our mercury down and not adding anything to it that keeps it up or keeps it level, higher than it should be or whatever. And I don't wanna put stuff through our treatment facility that increases mercury. And I don't think you do either, and Pete doesn't, you don't, I don't. But we need to establish a method that is testing and we're getting information from. And, we need to get the proper information. And I think if that information is acceptable to the MPCA or to us as we operate our facility, then I think that's important to know what that information is. I mean, it's easy to say, no, we don't wanna take it. Well, there's a lot of reasons by doing that, there's a lot of things that happen from that. We got a guy in business, we have income, we have a new facility we gotta upgrade. We're trying to get funding for that, we got some funding for it. It's a big project, it's an $8 to $10 million project, or maybe more by the time we get at it. And we want it to be done right. We kinda want all hands on deck when we're doing that. So we don't wanna do things that are wrong, but I think this leachate testing concept is something that we can move ahead with, that at least is putting checks and balances in what we're doing, and how long have we been taking this anyway? I mean, 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah, you've been hauling it for 20 years? So, this at least gets the information out there. We collect information, we collect data, and I think that's important to do at this point.
Yep.
And then what happens when we do rebuild and fix that and it's up and running and there's still 2 ponds sitting out there that are full of water because no one ever did anything to it. Now, do we have a facility that can take it without all these questions, or, what are we accomplishing by putting 10 million into our facility if it's,
That's one of my points is that,
if they come out with a 200, they can add to that list anytime they want. Boron, or,
Yeah,
we have to,
I mean, we're putting that list together, right?
uh,
So we're part of A, and we do add things to that list from time to time
Yeah.
around here. So I would expect that to happen in the future.
We want to keep the lake clean, that's.
Yeah.
You know, that's
That's the business.
called survival, right? So.
Can I ask Scott a question? Why would the state not require a boron? Why do they not control that?
From the information that they have seen, that they don't feel it's an issue. But because they haven't seen it, doesn't mean it isn't or is an issue. So that's just something that they don't think is relevant at this moment in time. But Jeremy told me that that can change very quickly just by a few data points. And that is a precautionary thing, that we do all the testing and we find out that, say for instance, there's something coming from the city of Grand Marais proper that we never knew existed, that could be throwing us over the edge in something.
Yeah, and in that way, we're no different than any
Right.
of the other communities.
Another thing, like the city of Ely, this is decades old information, but they had, they were failing this whole effluent toxicity test, which is one of the tests that we could run as part of that $5,000 number. And it turned out that it was DEET. So people would go out in the woods, they'd come back to their hotel rooms, they would shower, they'd wash off that DEET, and that was upsetting Ely's wastewater plant. And so we might find a similar type case here. Then again, we might not.
Again, that would have nothing to do with the leachate.
It would have nothing to do with leachate, correct?
So when, I feel like we should, it seems like there's some urgency to this, right? To get this figured out and get a testing program in place or not.
Well, the companies certainly are acting with some urgency. I think Pete's clearly communicating some urgency.
Yes. Yeah. So what's on the schedule is another meeting with PCA, and that's happening a week from now, you said?
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
Your next meeting is July 1st. And I think that's enough time for us to get feedback on the testing plans from other folks, to develop some significant industrial user agreements, to have communications with the company about what the plan might look like, and to come back here with here's a recommendation.
Can we get maybe we have an interim meeting to discuss how, like,
Yeah, sure.
something between now and a month from now?
What
Just
would you
like
like?
a couple of weeks from now?
17th?
I don't know. It seems like it would be nice to just keep on top of it a little more and make sure that, or I don't know, make sure that, but it's more of this, like, keep apprised of what's happening and
Yeah.
what the progress is. What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, you have to post, how much warning do you need?
3 days.
3 days, okay, so.
Warning.
Huh?
Warning.
Oh, warning, yeah, no,
Warn everybody.
no, you guys have 3 days.
Yeah.
But, so, whenever you think you guys, whatever the meeting's yeah.
We'll do that.
Then I give you time to contact the industrial user, or the MPNL and Cliffs. And, give them information on how we plan on testing, doing this. And, like Pete said, I don't know how you wanna do that, billing wise or whatever, but, I mean, we can talk about that. But,
Yeah.
yeah. We know what we're gonna have to spend to do the testing that we have to do over there, so. We'll lay that out and have some numbers for that meeting.
So there's one more item on the,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yep.
There's one more item on the agenda, which is the septage, rates.
Oh yeah, we skipped that. Oh, we did talk about that.
We started it,
We started it, then we got into
this is a
acceptance
much
and sewer.
more, yeah, logical flow to talk about that first.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, the septic gray water rate that Pete hauls
Right,
from our plant to Duluth.
to our plant, this is
Oh,
for us accepting from Pete.
okay, but what about the sludge going? That's different?
Yeah, well, that's in Scott's memo,
Okay,
maybe we'll just turn it over to Scott.
yeah.
So as we've already talked about, G&G hauls septic from the residents and businesses in Cook County to the Grand Marais wastewater plant. Grand Marais, and then they screen it and release it to the Grand Marais sanitary sewer. G&G also hauls their biosolids to Duluth. On the return trip, G&G previously hauled leachate, backhauled it, and then they gave us a nice credit for, on the charges they would normally charge if they had to do it, where they just went empty all the way back.
Right.
And so, because we've temporarily suspended leachate receiving, and they don't have any other backhaul opportunities, Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but, it was 10 cents a gallon, now I think you said it was gonna be 18?
17.
17, okay. So my apologies on the 18 mistake. Another trucking outfit has told G&G that they would subcontract for 23 cents per gallon. And then there's out of Pete's control, there's a fuel surcharge when diesel's over $3 a gallon.
We pay that.
And then we pay that, yes.
Yeah, so that's describing what we pay Pete to haul sludge to Duluth.
Except that the 23 cents a gallon is sort of
And that's,
speculative or.
Yeah, I was just trying to get some help to see it, because it's hard to do it without the backhaul.
Right.
So I was gonna see what they could do it.
and then, septic accounts for roughly half of the total volume of the biosolids hauled. It's a rough number. And we don't receive any septic from any other contractor that I know of. And currently, we charge G&G 6 cents a gallon for septic and 3 cents a gallon for gray water. After we compare all the pricing that went up, and the quantity of extra sludge that, just based off of last year's numbers, because we ended up having more sludge hauled than we anticipated, it looks like we're gonna need to raise the rates to about 10 cents a gallon for septic and 6 cents a gallon for gray water. I've got a spreadsheet that we put together that details everything if you wanna see the nuts and bolts of everything.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I get a little confused here. We have there's biosolids, septage, and gray water.
So septic and gray water come into the plant. We process it.
Septage only comes in because it's being hauled
It's hauled
in
yes.
by Pete or, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And then the biosolids is what we end up with.
We send up
We send to Duluth.
to Duluth, yes. And the gray water?
The gray water is pumped, just like septic is,
Hauled in by Pete.
hauled in by Pete.
Separately? That's two different things?
They're two different things, yes. Gray water is, like if somebody has a holding tank
Yeah.
on their property, 1,000-gallon holding tank, when they fill it up, they call Pete to haul it away. If somebody has a septic system, they use it for 2 or 3 years, or depending on how hard it's used. It's pumped every 2 or 3 years, they pull the sludge out, the thick stuff.
Yeah.
And we get that as septic.
Yeah, and I presume there's been discussions with Pete about, whether these charges are, going to allow him to continue in business, for example?
At this point in time, we have not had that discussion.
It seems like that would be,
There wasn't much discussion about his price increase to us.
Yeah.
Either.
Right, I mean, it's a matter of
Just showed up.
negotiation, right? It's a matter of discussion.
I mean, it's fair, nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it, because his costs go up because of the decision we made.
Sure.
He's passing it on to us.
Sure.
We have to pass it on to the folks that create the costs to us, which in this case is Pete's customers, and how he wants to handle that is up to him.
Yeah.
That increase is a lot more than my increase, which, I mean, I'm not arguing it. We used to always try to be a little bit in line with how Duluth would be, the, you know, percentage. We're always more than Duluth, but the gray water to me seems awfully high. The sludge, I can understand that, but the gray water at 6 cents a gallon, I don't know what. It'd be like your normal stuff coming in to the plant, and I don't know if you're at that kind of a rate for the people.
I don't remember off the top of my head what the gray water is.
And, you know, and you, I'm not gonna argue whatever you do, because I just pass it on to the people in the county.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, it just seemed, that seemed a little higher percentage than what I had been used to for that product. But, you know. And Silver Bay is taking some now, so I don't have to take it all here. If I pump in the west end, I've been taking some to Silver Bay. And if I pump up at like Wolf Ridge and I take that stuff to Silver Bay, so. Which doesn't, you don't care anyway, so. Do you know how you came up with a 3 cent gallon raise on the gray water?
I've got
I mean,
a,
that was doubled.
I've got an elaborate spreadsheet that I set up that takes into account all the factors in our budget for, and then I, based off of last year's sampling, I was able to figure out that the septage in gray water contributes, it's about 43% of our total solids, so roughly half.
Yeah.
And so I use that 43% times a whole bunch of portions of our budget, that, the TSS portion of our budget, and the total phosphorus portion of our budget, and the total carbonaceous biochemical oxygen demand portion of our budget. And because we get billed from WLSSD for those constituents, and because the septage in gray water is a portion of it, that's how I calculated those increases.
That'll be effective this month?
That's,
If they approve it.
Well, how does this, with this increase of 10 to 17 cents a gallon on Pete's side, how does it, how do we sit at the end of that? I mean, with our increase presumably sort of compensating some way for Pete's increase,
Yeah, some but not all of it, I think is what I would say.
we're recovering some but not all of that.
yeah, our goal is to essentially break even.
Sure.
We're not trying to rake the rural people, of which I am one of them, over the coals, just because we want more money.
Yeah. Right. And presumably Pete's increase is allowing him at least to keep in business at least in, under.
It makes sense why Pete's numbers went up, it does.
Yeah, well, I was getting 6 cents a gallon hauling the water back, so that I was giving the city that 6 cents a gallon, cause I was on the backhaul, but now when that's gone, and everything's gone up, so that's why I went to 7 cents a gallon increase instead of 6.
Yeah.
It's time to.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, to me it seems rational and supportable, and, I mean, I certainly have sympathy for Pete's predicament, because he's kind of caught in the middle of a,
Well, my predicament is I don't know how much longer I can hold on trying to haul it to Duluth. It's a tough scheduling thing, and it's a long day to try to make 2 trips to make it feasible, cause if you go down there one trip, you just can't make it. You gotta go down there, make 2 trips and come back, and I mean, and that's my problem, but I don't know how long they're gonna say, we're gonna stay with you, cause it's an elevated rate that I'm giving them versus what they could
Yeah.
maybe get from another hauler, so.
Hopefully, with the conversation today and a possible timeline for how this is gonna go.
Yeah.
That'll help.
yeah.
I know the lower pond is in control, the upper one, they haven't hauled any yet, and they're getting close to needing some hauled. And I guess if they have to go to Duluth for that, that's what they'll have to do. But urgent, the sooner the better, and actually the sooner the better is, yes, we're gonna do it, or no, we're not.
Right.
Is kinda, the being in limbo is,
Seriously, I mean, I'm not gonna lose too much sleep over it. Trying to make a decision, and I think with your plan, I think that's a step forward. If we can convey that to others, you know, I think that's what I wanna try to move ahead with that. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but we need to at least demonstrate our ability to monitor and test and get results that we need, you know. So,
Well, it seems I've moved to, approve the increases.
to approve the increases on septic and gray water rate.
May I add a point?
Is this our annual, is this for 1 year, or what is this, or how do you do this?
Just while it's happening, I think
Well, okay,
we
And
have
it's probably
typically
been a
looked at the
little
rates
time.
annually and we don't always adjust them, although our contract currently says we would adjust his rates annually based on our own rate changes. But obviously, this is more about
Like an
a
interim.
one-time increase that we're experiencing, and if that changes, maybe we go back and look at this again too.
But it's presumably these would get readjusted if we go back to standard practice.
I think we'd use the same analysis, and if our costs go down, we can go down with our rates on this.
And Pete's may go up and down as well, so.
did you have something?
That Mike just covered it.
Okay. Excuse me. So, do we have a motion to approve these rate increases? Charles makes a motion, I'll second the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
That's all we got today, guys.
That's it?
Other items, I don't have any other items right now, other than let's move ahead with our meeting. Let's stay in tune to what's going on there, and perhaps we'll have a meeting prior to July 1st. Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll just look at that week
Well,
of the 15th.
Okay.
And,
17th tentatively, right?
yeah, in that area, just
Doesn't
have
matter if
month
we
check
around,
in.
so whatever you need.
When we'll schedule something, I'm sure there'll be something worth updating on, so.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
One other item that's not anything to do with this. We have a brownout issue on the hill with some electrical stuff going on.
I'm not aware of
Does it
that.
affect the city, or does it just affect up yonder? Cause I was up there last night and they're missing a phase of power. Last night their cooler was off,
First I've heard of it.
half the lights were
We'll
off.
ask our guys.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody from the city was up there yesterday afternoon, like at 3:30, 4 o'clock, doing some testing. So I don't know if you're aware of that.
No.
Okay. I don't know if I got fixed or not, I was just It said something about the apartment buildings causing it or something, I don't know what's going on. But we should probably look into it to see if it's just a building problem that they're experiencing, or if it's something on our
System like.
on our circuit.
Check into it.
Okay. Well, it's probably fixed now anyway, so I don't know. I didn't
So,
hear.
I mean, they probably would have called us today if their coolers
Well, I would
weren't
think
working.
so.
Yeah.
Somebody else is up there. Tom Nelson was up there and said he got ahold of the city, so maybe he called Matt or, I don't know. Okay. I was just concerned about that electrical issue up there.
Alright,
Alright, that's all
Thank
I
you.
got.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
thanks for coming and presenting.
And I just wanna apologize for my outburst, but I'm so frustrated with our neighbors